It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Smooth and Savvy is joined by some of the hottest talent in the entertainment industry, from musicians to authors and all those in between. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Smooth and Savvy himself, Douglas Coleman.
Hitty, hi, hi, ho, 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 he, ha, ha. How you doing? It's me, Douglas Coleman. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. Today is weight loss day, or weight maintenance day, or eating healthier day. I've been talking about my diet for the last couple of shows, and I have to date lost 13 pounds, which I'm happy about, but still a ways to go. I need to lose a total of 50. But today on the show, we have Michael Tamez, who lost in his life 100 pounds and had an amazing experience through some tragedies and things that beset him in his life. He has wrote a book called Transformative Nutrition, The Ultimate Guide to Healthy and Balanced Living. And we're going to talk with Michael in just a few minutes. It was a long interview, a full interview, so we don't have a lot of time. We will be right back with Michael Tamez after these commercial messages.
With Adventure Boundless, best-selling author Jane Yates follows up her acclaimed Paradox Child trilogy with Garden, a steampunk science fiction novel with fantasy overtones, enjoyable for all ages. Inspired by the classic novel The Secret Garden, Garden begins with 11-year-old Aberdeen living in space above a perilous Earth. Aberdeen is looked after by her robot nanny, but she is often used to being alone, dreaming of dragons and castles. The sudden death of her parents forces her to live with her neglectful uncle on Earth and is captivated to find a world repairing itself. Fascinated by her new surroundings, Aberdeen makes new friends and explores the boarded-up house, only to discover a mysterious tunnel leading to wondrous things. Follow Aberdeen's journey of self-discovery, of trials and friendship. Garden narrated by acclaimed actress Anna Parker Naples.
Bondi Guest House in Jomtien Beach, Pattaya, Thailand. And their guest house offers beachfront accommodations, with all rooms having sea views. Some rooms have balconies overlooking the sea as well. The Jomtien nightlife is within an easy stroll, and the beach is right outside your door. The attractions of Pattaya City nightlife are also just a few minutes ride away. Food is available 24 hours and offer a selection of European and Thai food. The owners, Colin and Malcolm, look forward to welcoming you to the Bondi. For more information, email Colin at bondipattaya, BONDIPATTAYA, @yahoo.co.uk. And if you do contact them, please mention that you heard about it on the Douglas Coleman Show.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps from the UK, record producer, engineer. You might have heard of me. I've worked with artists from Elton John to Led Zeppelin to Bad Company, Twisted Sister, Robbie Williams, Oasis, many great bands and artists in the past and the present and hopefully in the future. But you can work with me as well. You know, all you got to do is get in touch with me on epsmusicproductions.com. That's EWPSproductionsmusic.com. And I can help you with your productions and with your recordings. A lot of people do home recordings now, which you can only take so far. Maybe they need a bit of professional help. So get in touch with me and we can sort it out. And thanks for Douglas Coleman for giving me the spot. Thanks a lot. Cheers, bye.
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
He was morbidly obese, had severe obstructive sleep apnea, high blood pressure, and advanced gum disease. Not only did he lose 100 pounds and reverse all of those lifestyle-related health conditions, he also transformed the dysfunctional relationship he had with food, his lifestyle, and his true self. This 13-year health transformation experience was intensified when he lost 5 family members within 18 months. Because of the tremendous impact of these losses, he was forced to have major mental, emotional, and spiritual breakthroughs in some of the most difficult times of his life. After experiencing all of these life-transforming deaths, he was highly inspired to write an empowering book about life. In his debut book, Transformative Nutrition, The Ultimate Guide to Healthy and Balanced Living, he describes his influential health journey in detail. Having been on the other side of the balance, he can relate very closely to what people deal with when it comes to weight-related health imbalances. His unique and progressive approach is not just for people who want to lose weight or eat healthier. It's intended for anyone who wants to establish a functional, healthy relationship with their body, meanwhile impacting every area of their life. As a certified health coach and published wellness author, his mission is to inspire a permanent shift in the way people eat, think, feel, live, and love. Okay, please welcome Michael Tamez. Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Douglas. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. I saw your profile, and I was immediately interested in having you on the show for a couple of reasons. One, because weight loss is something that many, many people are struggling with. I saw a statistic that 50% of Americans are overweight to some capacity, whether it be just a few pounds or many, many pounds. And I thought that statistic was startling, that half of all Americans, I mean, I guess we take the trophy for the fattest country in the world. And quite honestly, I am struggling with weight problem myself. I have been told by the doctor that I need to lose about 50 pounds. So this isn't the first time that I've been on a diet, but it shows you, and I know you probably are very well experienced with this, is that, diets yo-yo with many, many people. They get the weight off, and then it comes right back. They've tried this diet, that diet, whatever, and they just can't seem to keep the weight off. I mean, it's hard enough to lose it, but assuming you can lose it, it's even harder to keep it off. So now I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, and then we'll get into a little bit about your background and thing. You lost, according to this, 100 pounds, which is tremendous. I mean, that's like a whole nother person, practically.
Almost, yeah.
How long did it take you to lose 100 pounds?
It took me initially, I actually made a New Year's resolution quite a few years ago, like 14 years ago. I started in January, and over the period of time, it took me about 10 months to lose the majority of that weight. I lost about 70 pounds in about 10 months or so.
That's a lot.
And
yeah,
it is. And the first month, I didn't really see any results, and I was really discouraged. My dad actually bought me some boxing gloves and a timer, and I pretended I was going rounds. I would go like 3 minutes and then rest and then go 3 minutes. And that really helped me sweat a lot of the, fat off, and I was, lost inches and lost weight doing that. Yeah, I mean, pretty much over the course of about 10 or 11 months, it took to drop the majority of the weight. And I also, in that 10-month period, I actually was able to reverse my sleep apnea, which is I actually had severe obstructive sleep apnea.
Now, explain to people what that is exactly.
Sleep apnea is when you're sleeping and you're not getting air into your esophagus to your lungs, and your throat is actually closing up at night, and it's preventing you from getting a restful sleep because you wake up many, many times a night. I mean, in some cases, my sleep study indicated that I was waking up like 100 or so times a night. So, and it's interesting, when you have sleep apnea, you don't even realize that that's happening unless someone is with you and they're like, "Whoa, you scared the crap out of me. You just woke up." You wake up gasping for air as if you're like, drowning or something, or dying. It's scary. It's a scary thing to have.
So essentially, you're suffocating yourself while you're sleeping.
For the most part, I mean, that's what it kind of feels like when you wake up and you're actually aware that it's happening. Because a lot of the time you're not even aware, and you think you're getting a full night's sleep, but then in my example, I was falling asleep during the day. I was falling asleep at work. I even fell asleep driving a couple of times and got into a car accident once.
Oh.
scary. And I was only like 20 years old, so I was like, okay, I must make a change right now because, I don't know what's going to happen when I'm older. So
Okay,
yeah, it's a
that's
scary thing to have, and it's directly related to obesity, and the two go hand in hand just very often.
well. The sleep apnea is attributed to having excess fat around your neck and like the three chins, and that's kind of pushing on your esophagus. Is that correct?
Exactly, yes, and they actually have a surgery that actually it's a reconstructive surgery that they do with your esophagus, and to create more airflow. So that way you get a better night's sleep. And I didn't want surgery. I didn't want to do medications. I wanted to go the all natural route. The other option is to sleep with a CPAP machine. It's called the continuous pressure airway. I forget the acronym, but it's called CPAP. It basically the doctor sets the pressure on it, and it forces air into your mouth and into your nose while you sleep. So that way you don't have those choking episodes and you get a full night's sleep. And I can tell you one thing, the first couple of nights I slept with that machine, I got the most incredible sleep ever. And it was like, whoa, I'm like a new person. So it does work, the CPAP machine, as far as a non-surgical approach, but it's also just a cover up. It's kind of like a Band-Aid. It's not getting to the problem, the root cause of it. So I knew that I had to go deeper to actually heal myself.
Okay, let me go back just a little bit. I'm reading on this thing that you, first of all, can I ask how old you are?
Sure, I'm 35.
35. Okay, now, have you had the weight problem? Was that something that you had as a kid?
No, actually, I was an active child. I was into sports. I rode my bike all over. Very active, very much, a very active kid. And then what happened was when I was about 17 in high school, I met this girl, and it was one of those fall in love kind of things, and head over heels. And long story short is she had a child at, I believe she was 18 at the time, 18 or 19. And I raised the child, and we lived together for about a year. And then I found out that she was cheating on me the whole time, and that the child was not mine. So
she told you the child was yours.
Yeah, I mean, I raised it. I raised the child for a year, knowing, I totally thought that he was mine. And,
okay.
my family, my friends, everyone would tell me, that child does not look like me at all whatsoever. And I was in denial. I mean, when you're in a position like that, it's like, okay, the thing is, her aunt gave me her journal for some reason, and out of nowhere, I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And she said, I think you might find something useful in here, because she would go out all night and leave me with the kid, and I would have to call into work because she would be, I wouldn't know what was going on. And come to find out, that's what was going on. Everything was documented in her journal. I was like, whoa, okay. But anyways, what that created was a very depressive state in my life. And I just didn't care anymore. I mean, I just started eating whatever. I ate fast food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I drank about a 2-liter of soda daily. And I gained about 70 or 80 pounds in the course of a year and a half. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's basically the whole process of what I went through when I gained all the weight and how I gained it.
So it sounds like you gained it as fast as you lost it. I mean, putting on that much weight in 10 months, that's incredible.
I was determined to transform all my health problems, because I knew that, being 20 and having these health issues, I was scared for my life. Being that much overweight and having sleep apnea, and I also had high blood pressure as well. That was scary.
So what was it that I suppose you had some sort of an epiphany about? Did you have a health scare, any kind of heart issues or anything what was it that woke you up?
Well, there are actually a couple of things that happened. First of all, the one was when I mentioned earlier about falling asleep driving and getting into a car accident.
Yeah, that would do it, I think.
Yeah, that scared me. I mean, I was like, okay, this is not normal for a 20-year-old to be falling asleep like this. That, and also what really got me over the edge was I would get winded just walking up the stairs or tying my shoes, bending over, doing the normal day-to-day things. It would just totally wind me out. It was a kind of accumulated over time, the things that were happening, the falling asleep, and then the car accident, and then just getting winded. And I just decided, okay, that's enough of this. I gotta make change now.
Okay, so I don't want to say what diet were you on, but what did you do? What was your process for losing the weight?
Well, the whole process was basically a lifestyle transformation. And in my book, Transformative Nutrition, I go into detail about why diets don't work and why the reason why people a lot of the time gain all the weight that they lost back and sometimes even then some. And the reason is because diets alone are not tailored to every person individually. See, we live on a planet of more than 7 billion people, and that's 7 billion unique individuals with unique immune systems, unique digestive systems, unique backgrounds, unique genetics, ancestry, all of it. It's all unique. So the way that one person handles its specific type of food or group of food is going to be vastly different from another person. I mean, it could even be from brother to sister, or from someone in the United States to someone in China, or to someone in Africa. It's because of how unique we are. And that's the number one reason, in my opinion, why diets alone are not a effective and sustainable solution to weight loss, and actually permanent weight loss, which is more powerful than weight loss. Because there's a lot of diets out there, and just losing the physical weight alone is not that difficult. I mean, anybody can just get more physical activity and drop the weight, but it's everything else that's attached to it as well that's not covered in a lot of the bad diets and a lot of the diet programs out there. And what I'm getting at with that is those underlying things, such as the mental, emotional, and even spiritual aspects of oneself, actually can cause a physical imbalance. Very interesting and very powerful. And it's a concept that I cover in very intricate detail in my book, Transformative Nutrition.
One of the things that I've heard that, and I suppose to some degree I've experienced it, is that people have said that depression can cause weight gain. Even if you don't start eating, an incredible amount of food. I've known some people who just had a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety and different things going on in their life, and they didn't eat any more or any less than they normally did, but they put on weight nevertheless, and people attributed it to stress. And I was wondering if you had any comments on that or any experience with that.
Actually, yes, I do. It's very common that, what you just stated, it's correct a lot of the time, because the reason, and this is the reason, energetically. So, you look at depression or you look at stress, it taxes our body, it taxes our immune system, it taxes our organs. It puts us in a lower state of living. And what happens is sad and heavy feelings like depression can actually cause the digestion to slow down. And when you look at it the other way, when you look at someone that's joyful and full of life and zest, their metabolism is a lot of the time incredible. They can digest and assimilate foods easier. So it's just interesting when you look at the correlation between how depressive feelings are and how, the same person eating the same food is gaining weight. That's exactly why it is because, the person is introducing these feelings to their body, which is slowing their processes down internally, which causes the weight gain. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, so we talked about different ways. So what did you do exactly? Did you go on a specific diet, or did you start exercising more, or both, or what exactly did you do?
I created my own diet, and that's exactly what I try to empower people to do themselves. Not following any guru, not following anybody that says that their diet's the one and only way to losing weight. It's creating your own, what works for you exclusively, because of the whole, what I said earlier about us being
everybody
so unique.
Being different, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's why, one of these, you can take a look at any of these fad diets that come out, and, they say that this way of eating or this way of living is the greatest for everyone and their grandmother. And it's just interesting when you look at it that way and consider the diversity and the eclectic nature of human beings. It just doesn't make sense that one way of living or eating can work for everyone on the planet.
Well,
so
I got a kick out of, do you remember back when the Atkins diet was the fad diet of the week?
That was
and I always got a kick out of that because, bacon was fine, but fruit was no good.
Right.
And I never got that one because I can't believe anyone doesn't benefit from eating fruit, nor can I believe that anybody would ever get fat eating fruit. I just can't see that happening. You would have to have a very, very slow metabolism.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, when you look at not only that diet, but I mean other diets that have you counting calories until you want to just quit. I mean, there's a lot of that, and also like the low fat diets, and I mean, you go from A to Z, and you can find multiple diets under every letter of the alphabet. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how about we just go on the dietless diet, just go on creating your own diet, and that's what I like to tell people to do. And the easiest way to do that is to listen to your body, because our body speaks to us in the language of symptoms, and also in the language of kind of like a knowing, like an intuition. So when we eat something that is not compatible with our body lets us know. I mean, we'll either feel sluggish afterwards, or we'll have an energy crash. When you're reaching for that, that candy bar at 3 p.m. because you're falling asleep at your desk, that probably says that your lunch was not good, or what you ate, something that you ate for lunch doesn't work, and in your body. And when you start paying attention to those signs and messages, then you can start creating your own diet based on what your body's telling you. And the easiest way to do that is to take what you're getting out of what you're eating and how you feel, and start creating like a journal and writing down, okay, well, I want to lose X amount of weight, and I need to start documenting what I'm eating, how I'm feeling, not only right after, but maybe an hour. And it's very powerful because you can actually create your own meal plans that are tailored specifically for you. I mean, this is good because you have nutritionists and dietitians, and we all work together. I'm a health coach, and we all work. We have the same goal in mind, is to get people healthy and fit and feeling good. Not only looking good, but feeling good as well, inside out. So creating a meal plan that works exclusively for you, or anybody, that's very powerful, because there's no one else that can say that it doesn't work for you, because you went through it yourself, and you learn through trial and error what doesn't work and what does.
Give me an example of what your diet consisted of.
My diet consisted, you mean when I was overweight, or
when you were losing the weight? What was your, give me a day of what you would eat.
Well, I mean, I transitioned over from, eating junk food and fried foods and fast foods. And I have this concept where it's called crowding out. It's a very powerful concept. And basically, instead of restricting food, you add in food. So, for example, I started adding in more homemade salads and sandwiches, healthy stuff, good stuff, veggies. And it's just interesting in that when you just do something that simple, I stopped craving soda and fried food. Like I didn't even want it anymore. And when I would eat or drink that stuff, I would feel terrible. And the more good stuff I added, the less I craved the bad stuff. It's kind of just fell off the end of the chart. It's very powerful when you look at it that way, because when you do it the other way and you have a restricting approach, so what happens is, a lot of the time, what I see when I see coaching my clients is that we get spiteful. Like I don't know what it is, if it's our ego or what, but kind of have like okay, well, you're going to restrict me from that. I'm going to just eat it anyway, or I'll stuff my face with something else. But when you have a crowding out type approach where you just add stuff in, you're just letting yourself be as is. You're not making yourself wrong if you have a cheat day, or if you make a bad choice one day, because you just get up and start over again. And you just, okay, I had a couple cookies, I had a pizza, I had some chips, and that's fine. We don't have to beat ourselves up over these kind of things. It's being aware that, we want to make better choices and putting the effort into it, but also having that space for when you do make not so good choices. So, I mean, that's kind of a different approach to the majority of a lot of diets out there. And they're telling you to eliminate foods, but I'm telling you to just add in good stuff. And naturally, and I've seen it many times with my clients and myself, is that those bad foods will start disappearing from your taste bud. You won't even crave them anymore. They'll disappear. You look back and you'll say, "Wow, I don't even know what happened there," and it's awesome.
Well, I have to agree with you on that because I stopped drinking diet soda.
Great choice.
Specifically Diet Coke. I used to drink it, like 2 liters a day. I just one day was reading something on the internet that it just absolutely everything was bad about it. I mean, okay, so it doesn't have any calories and doesn't have any sugar, but if you're trying to diet, it actually, the fake sugar chemical actually makes your body crave sugar more. So you get these wicked cravings for chocolate and, cake and all this kind of stuff. So one day I just said, look, I'm just going to stop. And I stopped. And then after about not drinking it for maybe 3 or 4 months, I happened to have one. It just was, the only thing available where we were. And it tasted awful. I mean, I took a sip of it and I went, bleh. And then I couldn't believe that I would drink so much of that for years, But you're right. Once you get away from the junk, and if you go to it, like I know that I've also done that with fast food where, after 3 or 4 months, and then you go and have a cheeseburger at McDonald's or something, and the thing sits in your stomach like a lead balloon. And you're like, how could I have ever eaten this stuff? So, yeah, I agree with you. When you change to better food, you certainly feel better.
Yep. Not only that, I mean, the foods that you're mentioning, diet soda has, the chemical sweetener aspartame. What happens is it interferes with the 2 hormones that tell your brain that you're full and that you're hungry. So it actually causes the reverse effect of what they are saying that it does. It makes you eat more because you can't tell if you're full or you're hungry. Wow. And in fast food as well, I mean, there's chemicals and preservatives in every fast food, major fast food chain out there. And it's a lot of if you do research, you'll find that a lot of the chemical ingredients that they put in not only diet soda and also fast food actually causes food addiction and causes cravings. And it's been documented and people know it. I mean, there's documentaries on this, that someone has gone without it, like you're saying, gone out without the diet soda, and then they actually have withdrawal symptoms sometimes. I mean, especially with aspartame, because it's a known neurotoxin, and it can really get into your whole brain and nervous system. It's interesting. It's a whole world that can be explored if interested in.
Well, it's amazing what I guess they can get away with putting in food. I did see something on your Facebook where it says the FDA approves paint thinner in children's cereal. Was that for real? They actually had paint thinner?
Yeah, it was. It was one of the chemical ingredients in, I think it was Trix or something, or Lucky Charms. I don't remember exactly what it was, but you see these labels and they claim that they're natural, even some of the natural products, or they claim that they're trans fat free. And yeah, when you turn it around, it's like, okay, this is a complete lie because I see it in the ingredients. See, they think that I don't know what it is, but they can get away with it because, for one, with trans fat, which is hydrogenated oil, the reason that they can get away with it is because I actually contacted one of the manufacturers of a well-known potato chip and tortilla chip manufacturer, and I asked them because it has a comment line. So I asked them. It says that there's 0 trans fat on the label, and then I turn it around and it says 0 trans fat on the nutritional stats, the nutritional label, and then I look in the ingredients, and lo and behold, partially hydrogenated oil is like one of the first ingredients. So now, mind you, the ingredients that are in foods, the higher up they are on the list, the more that there is of them. So their response was that legally they can get away with putting up to a half a gram or less. So up to 0.49 grams of trans fat per serving is legally allowable in food, and you could still label it trans fat free. Now, if that's not blatant deception at its finest, then I don't know what is.
Well, that's certainly deceptive, and it's just downright lying.
I just don't understand how they can get away with it. And the only thing, we have people lobbying and people, these companies are forced to reformulate their ingredients because people are becoming aware. And this is me coming on the show and me writing my book and, health coaching people I'm spreading the awareness so that people can start reading the labels. I mean, the actual ingredients, because that's the only way you're going to know if something is truly natural or if it's laced with chemicals that, aren't necessarily indicated on the front packaging.
So you lost your 100 pounds. How long ago was that?
Well, I initially lost 70 pounds, and this was back in 2002.
Okay.
And I kept those 70 pounds off until I actually thought I was at my ideal weight. And for 10 years, I was at that weight. So I was about at, 175. And I was actually up to almost 250. So I was down to about 175, 175. Stayed at that weight for 10 years. And then I realized I actually moved from Chicago, where I grew up. I moved to Florida, and then I started getting into like water sports and outdoor activities. And I actually lost another 30 pounds in the course of about 6 months or so. And then it's interesting because I look back at photos when I was at 170, 175, and all of them, I could see my belly. I could see that I was, still kind of chunky, still kind of overweight. And I didn't realize it, and you don't realize these things until you look back and look at photos. And I thought I was at my ideal weight that whole time. But, now being hovering around 140 to 145, about 100 pounds less than, what I was about 13, 14 years ago. So, it was actually a process of many years in realizing things and uncovering the root causes of why I was physically overweight. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the things that I uncovered were not physical imbalances. They were things that I was holding on to. Like I was explaining before, that relationship where the child wasn't mine, that created a lot of resentment and anger and a lot of not good emotions. And I didn't realize that I held on to those emotions for all those years, and that actually caused me to hold on to weight as well. And I see this with the clients that I coach, that when they start addressing some of these things, like the failed relationships or being miserable at a job, there's so many areas in life that are connected and actually have an impact on how you eat, why you eat, and how you feel and how you look. My book, Transformative Nutrition, is designed to get to the root causes of physical imbalances, such as weight loss, such as sleep apnea, and other physical issues as well. So it's a very progressive approach, and I think that in the United States and in the Western world, we're kind of embracing that more now as people are getting more into the holistic wellness aspect of our health.
On one of your bullet points here, it says non-physical nutrition. What does that mean?
Non-physical nutrition is actually what I was just mentioning, in that our thoughts and our emotions are nourishment to our body as well, in a different way, in a non-physical way. Because if you are positive and love your life and live every day like you love it, then you're going to eat differently than someone that is miserable at a job, hates their spouse, is just unhappy with life. There's going to be a different diet, a different way of eating between those two people. And I know I speak from experience, because when I went through the sadness that I had to deal with, I know that my diet was not good at that point. It's not until you start looking at those non-physical areas of life and see where the imbalances are, then that physical imbalance is going to be there still. And even deeper than that, when we talk about weight loss, losing physical weight and shedding pounds and losing inches is, like I said earlier, is not that hard. I mean, you just put some effort, get some physical activity in, less food in, less food, more movement, and, you make it happen. The mental, emotional attachments to being overweight, now that's something that you can carry on through, life like baggage. I mean, it's like carrying heavy weight with you, not, metaphorically even, just thinking about those thoughts, I'm stupid, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm inadequate, I'm too short, I'm not smart enough. These kind of thoughts, she hates me, are sabotaging. We self-sabotage because we hold on to these emotions and these feelings from the past. A lot of the time, if not all the time, that's the root cause of physical weight gain and holding on to weight for so long.
Well, another bullet point on here says why diets don't work. And I guess you could equate that to people having the wrong mental attitude. Because a lot of people, I think, just think weight loss is purely a physical or a mathematical kind of a formula, that their mental health state is irrelevant to weight loss. And I think that that's incorrect, that you have to change that as well. At least that's what I'm getting from what you're saying, is that it's a whole it's a whole mindset as well as changing, the physical food and getting some physical exercise in.
It's a whole interconnected ball of wax. I mean, if you look at it, and I like to encourage people to look at it as instead of change is to transform. And that's why I named my book Transformative Nutrition, is because change comes and goes. I mean, we change our underwear, we change our socks. I have change in my pocket, I spend it. The weather reporters change the hourly forecast constantly. Change is impermanent. But when you transform, when you go from one state of being or living to another state of being and living, you transform, just like a caterpillar going to a butterfly. That butterfly can never go back to that caterpillar state again. It just doesn't work that way. So that's why I'm asking listeners to really consider shifting your concept of lifestyle and diet from change to transform, because you'll never go back to that way of being again. I mean, who wants to? Once you're at a point in your health and in your life, even, who wants to go back to when it didn't work? It makes no sense.
Well, one of the things that we talked about right at the beginning was that it's very difficult for a lot of people. They'll lose the weight. They'll lose 50 pounds, and then it'll just come back and then some. So what happened? Why did all the weight come back? Let's assume that they, didn't start going to McDonald's every day after they got the 50 pounds off. If we say that, okay, at least they tried to stick with the diet. But I mean, is that really the reason why people just put it right back on? Because they say, well, I lost 50 pounds, so now I can start eating cake again, and now I can start eating this. Or is it something else?
It's something deeper. It's always, in my experience with my personal health journey and coaching my clients, it's always something deeper. And it's something that's not dealt with. I'll put it very simply. I stuffed my face not because I was hungry, but because I was sad and angry. And that statement might hit home for many people because, when you think about it, if there's undealt with thoughts and feelings or things that are you're holding on to, that's going to store somewhere in your body. Somewhere, it might be in your cells, it might be in your organs. Somewhere, those negative emotions are going to store there. And they're going to stay there until you actually pull them up, process them, and then move on. So it's kind of like just being present and knowing that here and now is the only time that you have to live your life. We're not living back in that failed relationship. We're not in, the time when we had that bad, that bad circumstance growing up or the traumatic experience. Those things, yes, they shape who we are now, and you can't forget your past. However, you have a choice now in the present moment to live your life and be happy. And it's a choice, and you either make that choice or you don't make that choice. But making the choice opens up the space to actually process those emotions and move on with life. So that way you don't, go back to the old ways of living and eating patterns. I mean, the reason that old eating patterns come up a lot of the time is because people have these stories about themselves that they're inadequate or that they're not, they're not pretty enough or they're not a certain way. And a lot of the time I see that those are the root causes, the reasons why the physical weight comes back onto their body, because they're not dealing with the mental and emotional aspects of weight loss, which are very important, if not more important than physical weight loss. Like I said, anyone can lose the weight, but what about those condescending conversations that you have going on from many years ago? Now that's something that's going to require some work and some effort.
Well, there is a term called comfort food, which typically comfort food is very high carb. You know, I've never seen like a plate of bean sprouts being referred to as comfort food. It's always like macaroni and cheese or, cheesy potatoes or something like that. And people do use food as a sort of a comfort. You know, some people use drugs, some people drink, some people use food. It's rare that I've ever seen somebody who really used comfort food for that purpose not have a weight problem. I mean, there are those people out there who can just eat whatever they want and never put on a pound. My father was like that. I mean, he ate the most, I don't want to say awful things, but his diet wasn't exactly great. But he never put on a pound, never. And he just, he could eat a half a gallon of ice cream in one sitting and he'd be fine. It's those people that we hate, right? But there are people who just have a natural, I guess, metabolism. But the comfort food people, the people that rely on the food to make them feel better, typically are the ones that have weight problems. And I guess in a sense, you're saying that you've got to get over that kind of depression or whatever it is that's bothering you so that you don't have this nagging urge to eat the comfort food all the time. Would that be accurate?
It's kind of, you're getting, that's kind of like scratching the surface because it even goes deeper than that. I mean, when you look at, something that, you may be holding on to. So what is it, just asking questions about, what is it? Questioning yourself. Questioning your actions is the only way to find out the answers. And that works in life as well. I mean, there's no way to find out how something works or why something is the way it is unless you get to the origin. And the only way to get to the origin is to ask questions, to inquire into. So inquiring into yourself, into your past, into your present. And, that's how those answers will come up and you'll know the actions that need to be taken. I mean, from what I've seen a lot of the time is that letters need to be written, even if they're just burnt or thrown in the garbage, just to get that out. Because holding on to negativity or bad feelings, either for yourself or for someone else, is toxic. And it really does, especially if there's a depressive state and comfort foods are involved. Comfort foods are fine once in a while if you don't let them become a drug to numb your emotions. Right. And that's a lot of the time what comfort foods become to people because they don't know how to process and deal with their emotions. And the easiest way to process and deal with emotions is to acknowledge that, it's necessary to do in the first place. Instead of, just brushing it off to the side and thinking that everything's going to be okay, because it's not. I mean, you may appear to be okay on the surface, but when you look deep within yourself, you still have those things there and they need to be dealt with in order to get to, not only physical homeostasis, which is, just pleasant existence all around, but mentally, emotionally healthy as well. It's very important.
Well, you were talking about writing letters and finding out what the problem and digging deeper and stuff. A lot of people have trouble doing that. There are people that just are not introspective. They don't really see themselves in the mirror accurately. And a lot of people live in denial. Some people just are not good at dealing with their own inner insecurities and will blame other people for all of their problems. I'm sure you've encountered people like that in your life where it's always someone else's fault. Everything that happens in their life is someone else's fault, right? How do you get to the stage where you can start to look inside? I mean, it's not an easy process for everybody.
It's not at all. I mean, personally, I can definitely vouch for that one. I mean, it requires some commitment because when you look at, you have to ask yourself a question. Am I wanting to lose weight or am I willing to make a commitment to my health? A lifelong journey to health. That's the question alone first. Like if the answer is yes, an astounding yes to that question, then, at least the desire is there. So it's working off the desire and knowing that there's some work to be done. Then, that's when, things get really deep. And just, understanding that and then going from victim mentality to, to actually be holding yourself accountable for your actions and how you feel. Now that's the next step, because saying everything is everyone else's fault and, the world is against you, that's victim mentality.
Right.
That doesn't forward your life. It doesn't forward your health. It keeps you in a state of blame and denial. But when you actually start taking responsibility for actions, thoughts, and choices, then accountability is there, and then things can things can magically open up and happen. And I've seen it many times. I've seen it in myself. I mean, all the anger and resentment I held onto from that relationship caused me to make not really good choices. And then I actually manifested a couple of other dysfunctional relationships after that relationship as well, because I was still in the mind state of, I hate women. I don't want to be in relationships. This is just, I had all this anger in me, and I didn't even realize it, because I wasn't even in a place to want to deal with it. I just didn't care. So I just went about my daily life, and until I got to the place where I realized that, whoa, hold on a second, wait a minute, I got all this stuff coming up from that relationship that was almost 10 years ago now. What is the problem here? Okay, I need to do something. And, I understand, it is difficult to dig deep, because you might not like what you uncover. And unfortunately, that's really going to be the most powerful way to address those things, process them, and move on to greater things in life, whether it be physical health or mental health, emotional, whatever it may be. But those are the things that really have to be committed to transforming. There's a lot of power in that.
Aside from the mental and emotional health issue that we've been discussing, which can attribute to weight gain in a lot of people, it's not necessarily exclusive. I mean, I would suggest that there are people out there who are fat simply because they don't exercise and they eat too much, without any particular mental or depression or anxiety issues. Would that be correct?
Well, I mean, it's subjective, because, what is causing someone to gain weight? I mean, I can see if it was like side effects from medication or something, or after a surgery, or, where someone isn't able to move around after surgery or something. In those situations, I can understand, because there's a reason, there's a physical reason going on underneath it all. But if there's nothing else, nothing logically going on, then I think it's just a lack of accountability that people have, because it's easier to not be accountable for yourself and to just play the victim mentality and
let yourself go, as it were.
Yeah, my whole approach in my book, Transformative Nutrition, is to empower people so that they can see, these things that come up, the possibility of them being in that mentality, instead of owning yourself and living to not only your health but your life to its fullest potential. Because as a human species, as human beings, we have unlimited potential to reach incredible things. And not only in the health area, I'm talking about like with creativity, with career. There's so many different areas of our life where we can excel and be amazing at. If there's blockages, if there's stuff there that's preventing you, we're more of a blockage than anything or anyone else could ever be. And that's because these things that happen outside of us, we can't really change that kind of stuff. We can't change what someone is going to say, think, or feel, but we can change how we react to those things and how we live our life and how we hold ourselves accountable for ourselves. And understanding that concept right there is powerful as well, because then, you can actually start taking responsibility and create the life that you want and the health that you want, reaching your health goals.
Well, you just brought up a very good point, which I want to reiterate, is that you said you can't change what people are going to say to you, change how you react to it. And that's something that took me a long time to come to terms with, because just as an example, I always used to fight with my mother, and it got to a point where just anything she said would just piss me off, and then finally I realized she's not going to change the way she is. So I'm going to have to change the way I react to what she says. And once I did that, I felt much better. And then I could be in a room and have a conversation with her for, some length of time, that it wouldn't be the sort of, well, let's see how long it takes before we get into an argument kind of a thing,
Yeah.
And I realized that. And once I changed how I reacted to her, it was much, much better for me. I guess the other point is, too, going back to what I said, is that I haven't met a lot of overweight people that were just content with their being overweight. Most overweight people are not happy that they're overweight. I think that's a fair assumption.
I think it is too, and most people that are overweight and are unhappy don't even realize that their unhappiness is directly stemmed from underlying non-physical aspects of themselves that they're not yet willing to deal with. But making a commitment to deal with them now in the present can really impact that.
What kind of an exercise program are you on? What do you do? Are you a gym rat these days, or do you do something more moderate? Or
the gym is kind of I don't really care for it. It's kind of dingy, and here I live in Florida, so they pump the AC like you wouldn't believe. So it's cold when I go in there. I don't even really care for it. I can't even get warmed up for like a half hour. So I'm an outdoorsy person, and I like bike riding is one of my favorites. And I like to do any kind of water sports I can, living in the climate I am now. But I actually have a chapter in my book called Up, Down, and All Around, where I explain a lot about exercise and different kinds of exercises for anybody's liking. Because there are people that like to go on the treadmill, put on a movie, and sweat, do some calories, and that's cool. If that works, that's great. As long as you're putting the effort into doing that. And I also have in that section, in that chapter, I have ideas for other non-traditional forms of exercise and physical activity. Outdoor stuff, adventure stuff. There's so many different activities that we don't even think of that we can incorporate into our daily lives that can keep us physically active. Because as we age, we want our bones to be supple, and we want we don't want to live in pain. Exercising is one of the easiest ways to prevent pain as you age and inflammation, because it keeps everything moving, keeps everything flowing. So finding something that works exclusively for you is the best thing ever, because you actually enjoy doing it. Because if I were to force myself to go to the gym, I probably wouldn't. I just it doesn't work for me. So even walking every day is amazing. Taking a half hour to an hour walk after dinner every day is one of the easiest and subtle forms of exercises that you could possibly do, and it's very effective as well.
Yeah, that's the one I like. I'm not big into gym, and I'm not big into standing and doing jumping jacks and push-ups and all that kind of stuff. But walking I do enjoy, and I particularly like walking in the city because there's so much to kind of occupy your brain. I lived in New York City many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to love to just go walk, and I knew that 20 blocks was a mile. So I'd walk up one side of the street 20 blocks and then cross the street and walk down the other side of the street. It was great because the time just went by so fast. And then when you got back to your apartment, you said, wow, I just walked 2 miles. But you didn't even notice it. You didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
But if you had to walk 2 miles on a country road where all you see is trees and grass, it's a little boring.
Yeah, it all depends too. Someone might like that scenery as opposed to the city blocks. So
well, that's true. I guess it's to each his own.
It's another area. Just what I mentioned before about us being 7 billion strong. It's just we're amazing. We're so diverse, and it's so cool that we all can coexist. Granted, there's a lot of crap going on in the world, but generally speaking, it's amazing that we have all these differences, but all these similarities at the same time, and I think it's awesome.
Well, we haven't blown the planet up yet.
Yeah.
So I think there's still hope for us. We have all the nuclear capability, but we're still keeping them locked up for now. I think there is hope for the human race. Well, Michael, we have just about run out of time. I did want to ask you one quick point here that you had on here. It says many people struggle financially, some even link living paycheck to paycheck. How do bad spending habits cause unhealthy eating habits? And I was just going to comment on that. I've realized going on a diet that it's much more expensive to go on a diet than it is to just eat the 3 for $1 Kraft macaroni and cheese in a box. It seems like the bad food is cheaper, and perhaps that's a reason why people don't stick with their diets too much, because if you have to buy, fresh fruit and vegetables and also the time, a lot of people just want to microwave something quick and that's it. That's all they have time for. for me now, I'm taking the time and getting vegetables and chopping them up and doing, I spend an hour in the kitchen cooking my food, where before I would throw something in the microwave and it would be 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah. We live in a time period of convenience, and a lot of the time people don't have the time to invest in cooking their own meals. And that's why I like to tell people to keep it simple, the whole keep it simple, KISS concept, and keep your meals down to 5 ingredients or less, and doing that, you can actually create meals that only take, 10, 15 minutes to prepare. I actually go into detail with that in my book as well, Transformative Nutrition, about how our spending habits are incorporated into how we eat. Because as you said, you can go to any fast food restaurant and get items off the dollar menu and sustain yourself. I mean, it's not going to be good sustaining, but you're not hungry.
You're not hungry anymore, right?
Yeah, right. For like $5 or less. But you go to the grocery store, you go to the farmer's market. Well, farmer's markets are cheaper, but you go to the store and you get a bag of groceries to make your own dinner, and you're spending a lot more. But you can also look at it as, well, how can I create a meal where I have leftovers that I can eat for the next couple of days? How can it be creative? How can I integrate creativity with cooking and make this food last longer? Or what other ideas can I have? I mean, there's just so many areas to go with it.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I've been cooking a huge pot of something and then just put it in plastic containers, microwavable containers, so that one day I know I'm going to have to spend an hour in the kitchen. And then, the other days I've got lunch for the next 3 days.
Exactly. And that works for many people. I've given that tip alone to so many people, and they're like, oh, that was great, because I only have to dedicate part of my Sunday, and then I have lunch for 3 days or dinner for 2 days. And
yeah, I don't mind eating the same thing over and over. See, some people don't. I have a friend who just can't eat the same food twice in, if he has this for lunch on Monday, right, he won't have it on Tuesday. Just absolutely won't. And so, I mean, that makes it a bit more difficult. But
it does. And it's about finding what works. And like I said, the more simple you keep it with the least amount of ingredients, the faster the preparation time is going to be. And, I encourage creativity when it comes to food and meal preparation, because, you never know what you're going to discover.
Well, Michael, your book is called Transformative, right? Or transformative, I think. That's one of those big words that I just can't pronounce. Okay, let's try it again. Transformative Nutrition, the ultimate guide to healthy and balanced living. Where can people find your book?
It is anywhere books are sold online. The easiest would be to go to my website, and that is transformative-nutrition.com. If you do a Google search for Transformative Nutrition, my site comes up right away. But I have my book there. It's available in ebook and paperback formats on pretty much any online retailer: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, iBooks. And also I have a free newsletter that has expert articles that I've written. It has I have a free ebook that you can get that introduces my health coaching a little bit, and I also have inspirational quotes and stuff in there, and sometimes I have free giveaways. So there's a lot of value to the free newsletter that I have, and I also have a lot of other resources on my website as well, like recommended products for my book. And there's just a lot of information on my website that I encourage people to check out, because it's the first step to ending your journey to weight loss, to stop the dieting cycle and start a new healthy living and transformational cycle.
Okay, super. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I know my listeners will enjoy that, and hopefully give some of them some inspiration if they are struggling with their weight. It's a great story to see, your before and after pictures. Those are really amazing. So once again, thank you, Michael.
It was a pleasure.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guest, Michael Tamez. Very helpful. And thank you for sending me a copy of your book, Michael. I will read that, and hopefully it's going to help me to get the rest of the weight off that I need to get off, and to keep it off. That's probably the hardest part. This is Douglas Coleman saying goodbye.